I never thought a single decision could change the course of my life forever. My name is Ryan, a 25-year-old office worker in the heart of the city, blending in perfectly with the routine of corporate monotony. From 9 to 6, my life revolved around spreadsheets, phone calls, and coffee breaks that felt more like therapy than relaxation. On the surface, I appeared like any other young professional chasing a career. But underneath, I harbored a secret, a fascination, a thrill that I never allowed anyone to discover. I loved crossdressing. Not for attention, not for rebellion, but for the sheer sensation of slipping into a persona that was wildly different from my own. The soft fabrics, the precise makeup, the elegance of heels, all of it gave me a rush I couldn't explain. But that part of me had always been private, hidden away in the confines of my small apartment. My girlfriend, Olivia, knew me as a practical, slightly nerdy guy. She adored my sense of humor and my loyalty, but she would have laughed, or worse, judged, if she knew the truths that lived in my wardrobe. So I kept it secret, locked behind layers of discretion. It was a regular Tuesday morning when my boss, Mr. Carter, called me into his office. Tall, impeccably dressed, and exuding an aura of control, he had a reputation for being both brilliant and unpredictable. People feared him, respected him, and often underestimated the subtle games he played with those around him. I walked into his office, heart pounding, not because of fear but anticipation. There was something in the way he looked at people, sharp, calculating, almost mischievous, that made you feel like he knew your deepest secrets, even the ones you hadn't admitted to yourself yet. "Ryan," he said, his voice smooth and deliberate. "Sit down." I obeyed, my knees slightly trembling. He gestured to the empty chair across from his polished mahogany desk. I sat, trying to appear calm while internally my mind raced. "I have a proposal for you," he continued, leaning back with a smirk that made me uneasy. "One that I think you'll find intriguing." I raised an eyebrow. "A proposal?" I asked, trying to sound professional, though curiosity surged in my chest. "Yes," he replied. "It's a little unusual, but I believe you are capable of handling it." He slid a folder across the desk. My fingers hovered over it, hesitant. Inside were photographs, images of the office, the staff, and a selection of clothing laid out meticulously. My stomach dropped when I realized what I was looking at: feminine business attire, delicate skirts, tailored blouses, heels, and accessories. "You want me to wear these?" I stammered, my voice betraying both shock and a strange excitement I hadn't expected. Mr. Carter's smirk widened. "Not just wear them. I want you to embody them. For a week, I want you to become my secretary. My pretty, perfect secretary. Think of it as a professional challenge." My mind spun. This had to be a joke. My boss had always been eccentric, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. Yet, beneath the shock, a flicker of thrill ignited. The chance to crossdress under the guise of work, with permission, with a reason. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. Olivia would never approve. My coworkers. What if they discovered me? And yet, the thought of embracing my secret desires openly, even in this controlled environment, was intoxicating. I swallowed hard, feeling the first tremors of a decision that would spiral beyond my control. "You'll be discreet," Mr. Carter continued, as if reading my thoughts. "No one outside of this office should know. This is a test of professionalism and adaptability. Can I count on you?" I hesitated, torn between fear and desire. Could I do it? Could I step into this new version of myself, under the watchful eyes of my boss, risking everything for a week-long game that promised both danger and discovery? My pulse quickened as I imagined it. The smooth fabric of a pencil skirt against my thighs, the click of heels on polished floors, the careful application of makeup to create a persona that was both alluring and professional. Finally, I nodded. I'll do it," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Mr. Carter's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Excellent. You'll start tomorrow. Everything you need is in that folder." And Ryan, his voice dropped slightly, almost conspiratorial. "Remember, the real challenge isn't the clothes. It's what happens when the world sees you as someone else, and you start seeing yourself that way too. I left his office in a daze, the folder clutched in my hands. My apartment felt suddenly too small, too familiar. The idea of transformation, exposure, and secret thrill coursed through me, mingling with panic and excitement. That night, as I stared at the clothing laid out before me, I realized my life was about to change. The Ryan who walked into the office today might never be the same again. I imagined Olivia's reaction if she discovered me, the whispers of coworkers, the subtle glances from strangers, and yet, I couldn't deny it. Deep down, a part of me was eager to step into the high heels, the delicate blouses, the carefully styled hair. I was about to become someone else entirely, someone prettier, someone daring, someone secret. And the game had only just begun. The next morning, I woke to a mixture of dread and excitement that made it impossible to sleep. The folder Mr. Carter had given me the day before lay on my desk like a promise, or a warning. I hadn't touched it yet, not fully ready to confront the reality of what I had agreed to. Yet, the thought of what awaited me, of stepping into an entirely different persona, sent shivers down my spine. I took a deep breath and opened the folder. Inside were meticulous instructions, a wardrobe checklist, and a small, handwritten note. Transformation isn't just about clothes. Embrace it fully. I glanced down at the first item, a black pencil skirt. Smooth, tailored, impossibly feminine. My heart raced as I held it in my hands, feeling the contrast between the soft fabric and my rough fingers. Beside it lay a crisp white blouse, a delicate pair of heels, and a wig with long, chestnut hair. Accessories were arranged neatly. Earrings, a necklace, and subtle makeup. Everything was perfect. Everything screamed sophistication, femininity, and control. My mind spun. Could I really do this? Could I walk into the office and appear as someone entirely different? The fear of discovery gnawed at me, but a thrilling curiosity kept me rooted in place. I remembered Mr. Carter's words. The real challenge isn't the clothes. It's what happens when the world sees you as someone else, and you start seeing yourself that way too. I decided to try the outfit at home first. The pencil skirt hugged my waist tightly, the blouse smooth against my skin. As I slid on the heels, I wobbled at first, unsteady on my feet, but there was a strange empowerment in the click of each step. I looked at myself in the mirror and felt an unfamiliar warmth, a flutter of vulnerability and excitement. Applying the makeup was a delicate process, each brushstroke transforming me further. I had never realized how much my features could change with a little effort. The shape of my eyes, the curve of my lips, the soft glow of blush on my cheeks. The wig fell perfectly over my shoulders, framing my face in a way that felt both alien and familiar. I caught my reflection and barely recognized the person staring back. I was no longer just Ryan. I was his secretary. I was the woman who could walk into the office with confidence, poised and elegant, yet hiding a secret that only I knew. The first day was a blur. Mr. Carter greeted me at the door with that same calculating smirk, as if he could see the turmoil beneath my composed exterior. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded, gripping my bag tightly. Every step through the office was electric. Colleagues glanced at me, some curious, some indifferent. I forced myself to maintain a professional demeanor, though my heart raced at every look. Each whisper, each subtle stare, felt magnified. I realized just how vulnerable I was, how every detail of my appearance, every movement, was under scrutiny. Olivia's absence was both a relief and a torment. She was out of town for a few days, and yet the thought of her discovering this secret gnawed at the edges of my mind. Could she understand? Would she judge? Or worse, would she find it funny and use it against me? I pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the immediate challenge, surviving the day, performing well, and embracing this new persona. By lunch, I had settled into a rhythm, though my body still screamed in protest from the heels and the unfamiliar posture. Mr. Carter's games were subtle but effective, small tests of composure, comments that forced me to react in ways I hadn't anticipated. Each moment built tension, blending excitement with anxiety. I felt like I was walking a tightrope, every step measured, every word considered. The first challenge came mid-afternoon when I was asked to deliver a set of documents to a client in the conference room. The office was bustling, and I had to maneuver through corridors filled with colleagues who either didn't know or pretended not to notice the transformation. My heart pounded, each step in the heels echoing like a drumbeat. As I entered the conference room, I caught the reflection of myself in the glass door. The woman staring back was confident, poised, and undeniably attractive. But beneath that, the familiar Ryan lurked, an anxious, vulnerable version of myself, aware of every detail and every risk. The duality was intoxicating, terrifying, and thrilling all at once. When the client arrived, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a professional demeanor, I felt a jolt of panic. What if she judged me? What if she suspected something was off? I handed over the documents, my voice steady despite the racing of my heart. "Here you go," I said, and her smile was warm, professional. Nothing was out of place. I had passed the first test. Back at my desk, I allowed myself a moment to breathe. I checked my reflection in the monitor. There was a confidence there I hadn't known I possessed. The thrill of hiding my true self while performing so convincingly was addictive. I realized that crossdressing wasn't just about the clothes or the makeup. It was about the way it made me feel, the power of inhabiting a different persona, and the thrill of the secret. But the tension was always there, lurking beneath the surface. Every knock on the door, every footstep in the hallway, reminded me of the precarious balance I maintained. One misstep, one slip, and the world would see me as I truly was. By the end of the day, I was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. My feet ached from the heels, my back from the posture, and my mind from the constant awareness of who I was versus who I appeared to be. Yet, as I packed up my things and changed back into my normal clothes, I couldn't deny a lingering excitement. I had survived the first day. I had embraced the transformation, and in doing so, discovered a part of myself that was thrilling, vulnerable, and alive in a way I had never felt before. As I lay in bed that night, reflecting on the day, I knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge wasn't the first day. It was what would come next. Mr. Carter's game was just starting, and I had no idea how far it would push me or how deeply it would change me. I drifted to sleep with a mixture of fear, excitement, and anticipation. The woman in the mirror had left a mark on me, and I knew that when I returned tomorrow, the game would escalate. Each day promised new challenges, new transformations, and new moments that would test both my composure and my identity. The thrill of secrecy, the power of transformation, and the tension of the unknown had me hooked. I was trapped between two worlds, the life I had known and the persona I had been dared to become. And I realized, with both dread and exhilaration, that there might be no going back. The next morning, the anxiety hit me before I even opened my eyes. The thrill of yesterday lingered, but so did the tension, the subtle, ever-present fear of being discovered. I got out of bed and approached the wardrobe with a strange mix of excitement and dread. Today's outfit felt more daring, a fitted pastel dress, soft fabric brushing against my skin, and a pair of stilettos that made every step a test of balance. As I dressed, I realized this wasn't just about looking like someone else. Each outfit, each accessory, each stroke of makeup was a small performance. I had to inhabit the persona fully or risk breaking the illusion. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see Ryan. I saw someone else entirely, poised, confident, undeniably feminine. Yet underneath, a part of me tensed with every movement, aware of how fragile this identity truly was. By the time I stepped out of my apartment, the adrenaline was pumping. I felt exposed, every step in the heels amplifying the vulnerability and excitement. The city streets seemed alive, each passerby a potential threat or witness to my secret. My reflection in shop windows caught my attention repeatedly, and each time, I had to remind myself that this was part of the game. At the office, Mr. Carter's smirk greeted me immediately. "Impressive choice," he said, nodding toward my outfit. "Confidence suits you." There was a sharpness in his gaze, a sense that he was testing me, evaluating not just my appearance but my reaction. I nodded, keeping my composure, though my heart raced. The day progressed with a series of subtle challenges. Mr. Carter sent me to deliver documents to a high-profile client, which required navigating crowded hallways and carefully maintaining the balance of heels on polished floors. Each glance from a colleague or client made me hyper-aware of every movement, every gesture. The vulnerability of my position was intoxicating and terrifying. During lunch, I found a quiet corner and examined my reflection again. The woman staring back at me felt almost real. I could feel her confidence, her elegance, and even her power, but it was precarious, built entirely on a performance. The thought of Olivia discovering this, of anyone discovering this, sent a shiver down my spine. Yet part of me didn't want to stop. The thrill, the rush of inhabiting this new persona, was addictive. In the afternoon, Mr. Carter introduced a new challenge, answering a series of client calls in a professional, feminine voice while maintaining composure under pressure. Each call tested not just my ability to perform but my ability to stay in character, to convince the world that I was the secretary they expected. I stumbled occasionally, my voice cracking slightly, but the quick correction and my determination to maintain the persona kept me going. By the end of the day, exhaustion and exhilaration combined in a strange cocktail. I had navigated every challenge, maintained my composure, and survived the subtle manipulations of Mr. Carter's games. Yet, beneath the surface, anxiety gnawed at me. Each day, the line between Ryan and the secretary blurred more, leaving me unsure where one ended and the other began. Returning home, I collapsed onto the bed, heels kicked off and wig tossed aside. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about the day's events and the subtle power Mr. Carter seemed to hold over me. Each challenge was more than a test. It was a lesson, a way to reshape me, to mold me into someone entirely new. And the more I resisted, the deeper I became entwined in his game. That evening, a notification from Olivia popped up on my phone. She was still out of town, but her message reminded me of the life I left behind, the world that still knew me as Ryan. A pang of guilt washed over me. Could I continue this secret without hurting her? Without letting her down? I pushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the sensations of the day, the sway of the skirt, the click of the heels, the subtle thrill of keeping a secret that only I could fully understand. The days that followed blurred together in a mixture of anxiety and exhilaration. Each morning brought a new outfit, a new set of challenges, and the constant awareness of the precarious balance I maintained. Walking through the office became a dance of subtle glances, careful gestures, and measured words. I learned to anticipate Mr. Carter's tests, to navigate the office dynamics, and to embrace the persona that had been thrust upon me. Yet, with each passing day, the tension deepened. One small slip could expose everything, an accidental misstep, a comment from a colleague, or even a moment of hesitation. The stakes felt impossibly high, and the thrill of the secret life intertwined with the fear of discovery in a way that made every moment electric. By the end of the week, I was no longer just Ryan performing as a secretary. The woman I had become was becoming a part of me, a persona that carried confidence, elegance, and a power I hadn't known I possessed. But the question lingered. Was this transformation something I could control, or had I already been changed? The suspense built as I realized that Mr. Carter's game wasn't about clothing, wasn't about appearances, it was about transformation. He had opened a door, and there was no going back. Every glance in the mirror, every challenge in the office, every thrill of secrecy was a step deeper into a new identity. And I knew that the climax of this transformation, the point of no return, was fast approaching. The tension that had been building for weeks finally erupted one Monday morning. I arrived at the office, still riding the wave of my growing confidence, when Mr. Carter summoned me into his private office. The door clicked shut behind me, and I immediately sensed that today's challenge would be unlike anything before. Today, he began, leaning back in his chair with that unnerving smile, "You'll meet a client in person. They expect a professional, polished secretary. But I want more than that. I want charm, elegance, and absolute composure. My heart sank. A real client meant strangers who didn't know me, who could expose my secret in an instant. The stakes were higher than ever. The client arrived early, a tall, discerning woman with sharp eyes that seemed to measure me in an instant. I welcomed her, trying to channel the secretary persona fully. Every word, every gesture had to be perfect. I could feel my pulse in my throat as we walked to the conference room, heels clicking on the polished floor, every sound echoing my vulnerability. Midway through the meeting, disaster struck. My heel caught on the edge of the carpet, sending me stumbling toward the client. I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself, heart racing. The client's eyes flicked to me, and for a terrifying second, I thought my secret would be revealed. But she only smiled faintly. "Careful," she said, a subtle smirk that made my blood run cold. I realized she wasn't just a client. She had noticed everything. My nervousness, my careful posture, even the way I shifted my weight. The thrill and terror of being caught surged through me like electricity. After the meeting, I retreated to the bathroom, hands shaking as I tried to calm down. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. The makeup was flawless, the outfit immaculate, but inside, I felt raw, exposed, and dangerously close to breaking character. I wondered, was I really doing this for Mr. Carter? Or had I begun to crave the transformation, the power of inhabiting this new persona, even as it put me at risk? The duality of Ryan and the secretary persona clashed violently inside me. Every fiber of my being was aware that one slip could undo everything. Just as I steadied myself, the door opened. Olivia, my girlfriend, was standing there, looking more confused than angry. She had returned early from her trip. My stomach dropped. "Ryan, is that you?" she whispered, her eyes flicking from my face to my outfit. Panic surged through me. Every instinct screamed to hide, to change back, to explain. But Mr. Carter's voice echoed in my memory. No turning back. I had to maintain composure. It's complicated," I stammered, trying to sound calm. "I can explain." Olivia's expression was a mix of shock, curiosity, and something I couldn't read. I realized that my secret life, the one I thought only Mr. Carter knew, was now teetering on the edge of exposure. In a frantic moment, I knocked over my purse. A single stiletto slid across the floor, catching Olivia's attention immediately. She picked it up, her eyes widening. This isn't Ryan," she said softly, and I felt the weight of the dual identities crash down on me. The secretary persona, the confidence, the elegance was real, but so was the panic, the fear of losing everything. The reflection in the mirror behind her caught both of us, Ryan and the secretary, colliding in one image. For a heartbeat, the room felt suspended in time. I realized that my transformation wasn't just about clothing or performance. It had become an inseparable part of me, a truth that Olivia now had to confront as well. Before I could respond, the phone on Mr. Carter's desk rang. The client from the meeting was on the line, already at the office's front entrance, asking for the secretary who had impressed her so much. Olivia looked at me, eyes wide, and whispered, "I don't understand what's happening." I swallowed hard. I had to make a choice: run, confess, or embrace the persona fully in front of both Olivia and the client. Every second felt like an eternity, the suspense suffocating. And then the door handle rattled again. The office felt impossibly small, the air thick with tension. Olivia stood frozen, clutching the stiletto I had dropped, her eyes wide with disbelief. My heart hammered, and I could feel the dual weight of fear and exhilaration pressing down on me. I can explain," I started, my voice trembling despite my best effort to maintain the secretary persona. But Olivia's gaze didn't waver. "This, Ryan? Or her?" she whispered, motioning at the reflection in the mirror behind me, the perfect secretary, poised and elegant, and me, raw and exposed. The office phone rang again. My hand shook as I picked it up, the client's voice cheerful on the other end. "I'm at the entrance. Ready to meet your secretary." I froze. The reality of the situation hit me. Olivia, the client, and Mr. Carter's impossible expectations. all converging in one room. Every instinct screamed to flee, but the secretary inside me, a persona I had honed and begun to cherish, refused to be ignored. Olivia stepped closer, her voice low but sharp. "Ryan, why didn't you tell me?" I thought I could handle it, I admitted, feeling the weight of my secret life crush me. "I didn't think you'd understand." She looked at me for a long, unbearable moment. Then, a flicker of curiosity passed over her expression, replacing some of the shock. "So, all this, it's real?" Before I could answer, the office door opened. The client walked in, smiling warmly, unaware of the personal drama unfolding behind the receptionist's desk. My knees nearly buckled under the pressure of maintaining composure. Olivia's eyes widened further, and I realized she was seeing me fully, both the scared, awkward Ryan and the confident, stunning secretary I had become. The client's attention was immediately drawn to me. "You must be the secretary I've been hearing about. You look impressive," she said, tilting her head with interest. I forced a polite smile, trying to exude the elegance she expected. But inside, panic roared. Olivia's gaze pierced me, silently asking what choice I would make: confess, hide, or fully embrace this new identity. Then, a knock echoed from the hallway. Mr. Carter's voice called out, "How's the meeting going in there?" I froze, trapped between my secret and the impossible expectation to perform flawlessly. Olivia took a step closer, her curiosity mingling with something else I couldn't quite read. Acceptance, perhaps, or intrigue. I glanced at the stiletto in her hand, at the perfectly tailored dress hugging my figure, and then back at the client, who was waiting patiently. The duality of my life collided in that instant. One choice could change everything. Olivia's whisper cut through the tension. "Are you going to be honest with me?" Before I could respond, the client's phone rang. She excused herself, stepping into the hallway, leaving us momentarily alone. My breath came in short, shallow gasps. Olivia's eyes softened slightly, yet the uncertainty lingered. "I don't know if I can explain it all right now," I said, voice barely audible. "But I can't go back either." "Not entirely." Olivia's hand hovered near mine, hesitating. Her silence screamed a question I couldn't answer. Would she accept this side of me? Could our relationship survive this revelation? The office door clicked behind the client, and suddenly the hallway seemed impossibly long. Footsteps approached, another unexpected visitor, perhaps another client or colleague, and I felt the walls closing in. Olivia looked at me, her expression unreadable. "So, what happens now?" she asked softly, almost challenging me. I swallowed hard, the reflection in the mirror staring back at me with unflinching honesty. For the first time, I realized that Ryan and the secretary persona weren't separate. They were intertwined, inseparable, and now exposed to the world. The sound of footsteps outside the office grew louder. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I glanced at Olivia one last time before the door handle rattled violently. And then,